Let's go ahead and kick it off. My name is Vadim Kacherov. So I am a custom engineer with the Google Cloud Startups team located in Boston. I've been a developer for almost 30 years at this point and spent most of my time in small startups, some as small as 3 people and some much bigger like Microsoft or Google. And I've always been kind of fascinated with startups and the idea, of a right team of people at the right time, having a huge impact on entire industries. So I remember watching this TED Talk some years back with Bill Gross, who is a veteran tech investor, and he asked this question: what is the single biggest reason why startups succeed? And the options are: is it funding, idea, business model, team? Here's what he said.
A lot of companies had intense funding. They even had business models in some cases, but they didn't succeed. I tried to look at what factors actually accounted the most for success and failure across all of these companies, and the results really surprised me. The number one thing was timing. Timing accounted for 42% of the difference between success and failure.
Yeah, timing. I actually found that very interesting. And by extension, time to market is one of the biggest factors. I myself had founded a startup many years ago, and it had failed for that exact reason. We had a great team, we had an amazing idea, even had a loyal customer base, but ultimately we were too early, and so the timing was not right. So if the timing is so important, that means that when that short window of opportunity is open, it becomes very critical for any company to get its products to the market as fast as possible. Now, the reason why I keep talking about timing is because right now, with proliferation of AI and its impact on almost every industry, including software development, you can't get away from it, right? This is the time is now. Our kids and parents, are interacting with Gen AI. Everywhere you look, it's being discussed, integrated in unprecedented speed. Most of the companies that I talk to in my day job in Google Cloud are now either AI-based or talking about integrating AI, right? So I find it very interesting. In my tenure in the field, I've never seen a technology that's so far-reaching and impactful, yet being adapted and incorporated so quickly. And if I focus more on, on effects of AI and software development and development tools in general, I think one of the best analogies I've seen about this is the parallel to the history of automotive industry, right? As Henry Ford once said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So even though that was the sentiment of folk back then, it was the right idea at the right time, and it only took a few decades for that entire transition to happen. And so I feel similarly that our industry is currently on that similar journey. There are 3 kind of main stages that define a journey: enhancement, extension, and delegation. And so the first, the engineers want to enhance their existing capabilities, right? Do their job more effectively, and at the same time save money and time. So this is all around, having the right model quality and response quality, and all the time that it can save. The second stage is extending human capabilities, right? So think about a car in terms of blind spot warnings and backup cameras and such. Can we know things about our code base now that we didn't before, right? Can Gen AI extend our knowledge and help us see around the corners, if you will? And the third stage is delegation, right, of our capabilities. What can we hand off? So that might be equivalent to like a Waymo car, self-driving car. And so I think that final stage is already here. Already today inside of Google, we experiment with AI-powered code agents. These agents, once are given access to their code repositories, can perform all kinds of tasks autonomously. So if we think about the future of AI and think about what it might look like, I think the answer is that it will be fully defined and dominated by AI, and these agents are coming. So this will give developers those smarter tools to build software with and smarter platforms to deploy them to, all while saving time, right? I'll give you another interesting data point here. More than 25% of code in Google is already AI generated, right? And if you consider all the Google code that we generate on a daily basis with open source projects and all of our products, I mean, that is a significant amount of code. So I wanted to kind of share this project first. This is Project Jules. It's powered by our latest Gemini 2.0 Flash models released last December. Jules is an AI-powered code agent. It integrates directly into the GitHub flow, and it can tackle issues, develop a plan, and execute it, and all under your supervision. So essentially, all you have to do is kind of review the work and press a button. I've given it some tasks in my older Java repo, and really been impressed with the results. It fits perfectly into my workflow, right? I give it access to my repository, it created a feature branch, performed some work based on my prompts, and came back to me when it was completed, where I was able to even create a pull request for me, was able to review it, comment back and forth together with the agent, and essentially merge it. Amazing, right? This type of engagement, I think, will be the new paradigm in our field. Agents as a service, it's already been coined, right? I think it's reasonable to expect that in the near future, companies will hire AI agents just like human developers, right? Get an extra digital set of hands to perform repetitive tasks that developers don't want to do, right? I know I always hated doing documentation, that's creation, right? Great use case for an AI agent. Its initial focus is on Python JavaScript coding tasks, but of course more language support will be added. Like I said, I threw a Java repo at it, and it did well with task creation. It's currently in private preview, but if you head over to labs.google.com/Jules, you can sign up for private preview, available later this year. All right. I think it's a great example. At its core, you can most folks know Google is a software engineering company, an AI company. And one of the reasons why I love working at Google is that engineering culture, always looking to improve and optimize every task. So if we take all that experience with open source software, running our own global scale SaaS products like Gmail, Maps, Android, right? And we share those lessons learned and best practices with the community. So, and these knowledge sharing, could be defining the concepts of SRE, site reliability engineering, continuous research around DevOps with Dora, which, by the way, recently celebrated 10 years, and always continuing that knowledge sharing. And so with AI assistant development, this feels like another one of those moments where we take in our internal learnings, our internal use of AI technology, and sharing them out via this product called Gemini Code Assist that we're going to be talking about today. Gemini Code Assist is an AI-powered assistant, primarily in the IDE, and the idea that it's going to help you build software faster, but also with quality and security in mind. If you consider, what it takes today for you to, let's say you were tasked to build an API and integrate it, right, with any off-the-shelf AI assistant, it would still be somewhat time-intensive, right? The reason for that is that enterprise context is very different and unique to each company. There are different schemas, different custom data sources, right? So Gemini Code Assist takes a different approach. It tries to understand the enterprise context first. So security schemas, API patterns, integrations, all of that, etc. Using that context, then it provides a tailored recommendation to our use case, and that's, I think, the big difference maker there. So today, I would like to kind of explore that timing aspect a little bit more. As I mentioned earlier, when that window of opportunity arrives, we want to have that first mover advantage in the market. So we want to get from an idea to deployment in a shortest time possible. But we also want to do this in a way that's not going to create a ton of technical debt, security or vulnerability concerns. And so now, if we consider software development lifecycle, there are many things that we do aside from writing code, right? Teams have to think about building, deploying, operating software, and also making sure that we stay secure in the evolving threat landscape. So if you took a typical day of a software engineer and compare it to maybe an AI-enabled counterpart, you can see the potential time savings, right? They begin to add up. Now, not every one of these activities we can do anything about. Maybe meetings is not so impacted, but I would argue that even there, right, AI can take notes like we're doing right now. We can create transcripts, summaries, keep track of action items. But we will focus on the on most of these as we go through the day today. Now, in order to address some of the common challenges that we hear around software development, Google has stepped back and tried to consider a more comprehensive, holistic approach. And starting with code completion and AID, right? That's table stakes. Again, we want to do more of an expert guidance via code suggestions, test generations, chat, but do it all with kind of Google best practices in mind, akin to that sharing aspect I talked about earlier. We can take further steps, right, by bringing in your own private repository to optimize suggestions to your internal systems and policies. So that's important. And we want to understand things more quickly, right? If I'm troubleshooting something, I need that troubleshooting guidance on the spot, potentially from a conversational assistant, which makes it a lot more streamlined. And lastly, classifying threats, right? Performing complex searches, recommendation, and maybe even remediation issues. And then if we look more specifically at the full software development lifecycle and look at each stage, starting with the design stage, there's applications of AI in every one of these, right? So if we look at design stage, Google likes to kind of prioritize designing and developing APIs as primary interface for the application. So we always try to adapt that API first methodology. With Gemini, developers can automatically generate API specifications and documentation, all from natural language prompts. And we'll see some of that in the demo. Of course, in the building stage, this is where developers can make full use of code completions in the IDE as they type their code, code generation, and convert natural language prompts, and have the ability for AI to explain the code, which is very important. In later on, then in test, right, ability to create test plans and generate unit tests, and then later on as well as we deploy it, help generate command line scripts, Terraform scripts, even Docker files and YAML files. All those areas where they're very error prone and potentially could cause issues. This is where AI is perfect. And lastly, as you operate and troubleshoot, right, they can retrieve how-to knowledge about the GCP infrastructure, all in the context of best practices. And as you monitor, use very powerful capabilities like prompt QL generation, log summarization, natural language queries, and analyzing errors. And also asking for suggestions, right? Like if I run into an issue, I have a way to ask for follow-up questions. So as we look at these improvements, how do we actually measure them, right? What is productivity impact? And I'll refer back to that DORA research I mentioned earlier. They highlight kind of 4 key measures for determining the software delivery performance, and these fall roughly into throughput and stability paradigms, right? So 1, lead time for change. This is how long It takes from commit to production. Deploying frequency, this is how often do you release your software. Your change failure rate, this is a percentage of releases that actually break. And then meantime, to restore services, how quickly you can recover from a problem. So we'll keep this in mind as we go through the different use cases. All right, so now I want to pause here and do our first demo. So I'm going to share my screen here. Go. And this one is, just for context, I am in a Google Cloud Console. We have a built-in Cloud Shell editor based in VS Code, you can see. And I have some repository open, as well as Cloud Code plugin. And so the first thing I wanted to show you is API spec creation. This is something that, again, as we think about those design stages, the first thing you might be thinking about for API first methodology, you need to create an API, right? So coming into the IDE, I can come in here and go into the Apogee section and click Create API Spec. Right away, it'll give me a couple of templates to work with. I can start broad. I can say, hey, I'd like to create an API for a takeout food business. Or I can be more prescriptive. I can say, describe an API method, right? I can say, give me an API that retrieves data, weather data, for example. Or the one I really like is give it a user story, right? And again, this will use natural language prompts to do that, describe your API, and it will go ahead and try to build it. And so you can see I threw a user story at it and said, hey, I'm a project manager. I would then create a task, assign deadlines, track progress visually. And based on that, it will go out and create an API for me. You can see this is an open API spec that I've created, and even stood up a mock server so I can test it. So I can come in here and see exactly what these methods will look like. I can try them out, right? So I need to give it an ID, right? And so this becomes very interesting, and I can quickly review this if I want to look at the code as well. I can open up the Open API back here on the sideline, change things if they look different or wrong. And from here, I mean, this really streamlines the entire creation process, right? Make the provisions that mock server for me. And for collaborative scenarios, I can easily spin up a server and share my work with others, get a feedback, and also enable kind of some of the parallel development stream. So I really like this, right? As we're starting a project, let me close this one out. I can come up here and say, hey, deploy a mock server. So now we have defined that contract, this API contract, right? And now my backend team can go ahead and start building, my front-end team can go ahead and start building the UI, and we have a common kind of contract in place already with this mock server. So a great way, I really like this capability for API specs. All right. Go back to our presentation here. We'll do a few more demos as we go through the day. Now let's take a closer look at Gemini Code Assist in the IDE, right? There's quite a few components. And inside the IDE, we will focus on code customization and transformations. All the things that allow users to work smarter and go faster. So we'll look at a few examples. First, there are a few ways to engage Code Assist in the IDE. The two main ways is chat or inline. Both use the context of a currently open file, right? So it'll take a look at the file, your cursor position, it will identify the language of the current file, and also even recently active files in the IDE. It'll then take all of that and send it to the model. We don't retain much data except some of the things for reporting, right? For each code suggestion or model response, we log the user ID request, ID and timestamp, but also was the request accepted or rejected, and whether the request triggered a source citation. This comes up a lot, so I want to address this. Rest assured that Gemini Code Assist is all the recommendations that it generates will never be reused for any other product or to develop anything else. Your data and your IP remains exclusively yours. So that I know that some folks early on had questions around that. Well, now chatting is great in Code Assist, but we also want to be more proactive, right? So suggest code as you're typing and take in your current context in consideration. So for instance, we want to generate a function based on your user comments, right? So you put some comments in, and we can try to build a function definition based off of that. Also want to be able to make the user aware of potential bugs, right? So code inefficiencies and so on. And the idea is there that you want to be able to fix them before your code checks in. And this is important, right? Because the earlier a defect is found, the cheaper it is to fix it, right? A defect found in coding costs 10 times less to fix than if it's found during system validation. And if the defect makes it to production, now the cost can be as much as 100 times higher, right? So it highlights that potential issue is critical for that time to market perspective, right? So the earlier we can find and more proactive we can be, the better. For licensing attribution, another great feature here, it's implemented in two different ways. So we can help the users stay, meet their IP protection requirements. So the pre-trained dataset filtering. So we have all our foundation models are fine-tuned on a dataset based on publicly available code repositories. That dataset undergoes additional filtering to remove code which is known to fall on under any non-permissive license or commercial license. Additionally, we'll remove any instances of PII or sensitive data. There's also post-processing source citations as well. So in addition to that filtering done in our pre-training datasets, every Code Assist suggestion will also provide citations, right? So you'll, as it is highlighted here in this screen grab in the IDE, you will see, or if you're using chat, there'll be a citation card. You will see the source of the information and the license it was detected to fall under. And what that allows you to do then to avoid any code that violates your company's IP policies, right? Or help you provide appropriate license attribution if you're using permissively licensed code. So very helpful, very important. Now let's look at a use case where a developer is tasked to fix a bug, right? I tell this story all the time. I worked at Microsoft for about 5 years and had to work with a lot of .NET developers. And I'm a Java developer, and I never loved .NET myself. And so every time I would come across a code that I didn't feel very comfortable with, I always wished I had this capability of explain, right? So Code Assist ability to explain for you. What's great here is that it's a multi-turn chat, so you can potentially ask follow-up questions as well. So if I were tasked to fix a bug, I can quickly do that, and once the bug is fixed, you may want to ask it to maybe create a test plan for it, right? And it will assist, of course, proposing a test plan, and you can follow up with edge case definitions as well. Finally, once you're happy with the test plan definition, now you can also ask Code Assist to implement these changes specifically for your code base. All right, now let's get into more interesting features here. And this next feature here is code customizations. This is Code Assist managed drag service, so it allows you to enhance your code suggestions using your private code repositories. So using your own coding style, your private functions, and your APIs. Today, it generates recommendations from GitHub and GitLab repositories, and we also have support for Bitbucket Cloud coming. as well as self-hosted SCMs like GitHub Enterprise, Bitbucket data centers. So let's see an example of the code customization in action. This is actually a quick little video of one of our customers that has been using these capabilities since last year.
For this example, we're developing a new piece of middleware to run as part of our backend service. We've already built several internal libraries to make this task faster and more efficient. One of these libraries is our Turing experimentation framework. This custom component was built in-house and enables us to easily make A/B test changes on our website. As a private piece of our codebase, it's not included in any public model training data. As we start typing, you can see that Gemini offers us a suggestion for using this component with a call to load features. This is a reasonable suggestion and consistent with good naming practices for this type of component. Unfortunately, our library uses a different call pattern. At this point, our developer needs to stop work and go look up the experimentation code to proceed. Now, let's undo all of that and try it again, but this time we'll use the power of Gemini Code Customization. Let's navigate to the Settings page and enable additional remote context. This tells Gemini Code Assist to use embeddings that we've taken from Turing's unique source repositories. Now when we type, we get much better results. We're prompted to get feature list to load all our feature flags and begin enabling the right functionality. You can even see that Gemini pulled in this experimentation SDK code reference that isn't yet in scope. We'll add that import, and now we're ready to go. We have correct, executable code generated without leaving our typing flow. If we're not sure about these results, we can even ask Gemini to explain them to us. With Gemini, now our developers can receive customized suggestions from our own private codebase, making them more productive than ever.
Yeah, really great use case. I think one of the ways we try to measure success for Code Assist is that response acceptance rate. And what we've seen is with code customization, the acceptance rate jumps 70%, right? So it's of course infinitely more important if these suggestions come that are based on your own code repositories. Now, the next thing is how do we measure adoption and usage patterns? So we have ways to view things like active users and break down the metrics. Inside, right out of the box, there are some dashboards and reporting available to you, so you can track individual, monthly, weekly, daily active users. You can see, what IDEs are leveraging, what languages, and of course, you can see all that reporting in Cloud Logging or export it out to BigQuery. Another really good feature of Code Assist is local code base awareness. This feature enables understanding of the entire repository all at once. So you can do large scale transformations and analytics, right? For example, let's say I want to do some code refactoring and use a different language altogether, right? So if it's me, I'm working on the ASP.NET app and I want to rewrite it into something, right? I can use code awareness to help me with those code refactors. It does that by leveraging that 2 million token context window that was introduced with Gemini Mod 5 last year. And so what it allows you to do is then pass the entire repository as context. So you can see up to 60,000 lines of code. Now, I want to point something out here. This is not the same thing as code customization, which is a remote RAG feature. Here, the emphasis on the local code awareness. So unfortunate naming clash there. Code review agents is another sneaky useful feature. This is what you saw with Jules, right? It provides an initial code review when a pull request is open. Again, as we talk about timing, the goal is to speed up and increase quality of code reviews. This tool isn't meant to automate your reviews necessarily, but rather, create that act as a first reviewer to minimize the demands on human reviewers. Just more efficient process, right? So the code review agent is currently available as preview for GitHub. So if you go to GitHub Marketplace, you can grab one and use it. And there's a private preview coming for GitLab and Bitbucket as well. And some of the things it can do for you, right? The pull request summary and feedback. So when the new PR is opened, the Code Assist will provide initial review within just a few minutes. Once review is ready, you'll see Gemini Code Assist bot then automatically get added to your pull request, and it will add an issue comment in the conversation tab of a pull request with all of its feedback and portions of the code that are being modified. Another great thing is it will give you ready to commit code suggestions, right? So aside from the suggestions, you'll see the code clips you can automatically review and commit directly from your pull request. You can also manually request Gemini for help. So you can ask for assistance at any point in your pull request via an issue comment. So you can do say at Gemini Code Assist or /Gemini to allow you to interact with it directly. Very helpful tool. Definitely a time saver. All right, Code Assist tools is another feature that allows seamless integration with popular developer tools directly in your environment, in your IDE. So if I am, I don't want to leave my flow, right, as I'm coding and I need to pull up some information on the Jira ticket or take a look at Google Docs or for PRDs, for design docs, you can do that all without leaving your environment. It's implemented as a at command in the chat UI. So for example, Atlassian, right, like if I want to get a list of tasks assigned to me or get details on a Jira ticket, I can do that directly from chat. Or if I want to ping like GitHub and GitLab and get me a list of open issues as it relates to a specific topic, or view a status of a pull request, you can easily do that. Code Assist Enterprise is a subset of features. This adds some additional capabilities that focus on larger teams and enterprises, as the name suggests. And there's of course a separate license for that. But some of the things that it covers is that remote RAG feature is one, but there also integration that's more integrated into our products, right? So Gemini for BigQuery, for example, if you want to get help with designing queries, right? So code suggestions around SQL or Python, Spark and SQL translations. But it can also do recommendations to improve query performance and optimize costs. This one is really an often ask from our customers. Gemini in databases, another interesting one. So this will help you generate, summarize, and fix SQL code. So that similar intelligent code assistant directly from Database Studio. But it can also help with database migration. So it'll give you an AI-assisted code conversation. And there's others too, like the Apogee one that you saw earlier. Wouldn't it be great if it can do the API spec, according to your company guidelines, like reuse objects, flows with security schemas and more. Those are all kind of enterprise type of features you can get with Gemini Enterprise. All right, one of the last features I wanted to mention here before we jump into our last demo is Gemini in-app integrations. App integrations is a business application platform that provides low-code workflow automation. You guys probably remember these. They were all the rage back in the day with libraries of connectors and the design canvas where you can kind of snap together workflow. I think these low-code platforms will probably see a renaissance and become more popular again with all the AI improvements. And if you think about that Jules agent example, right? You're effectively setting up a workflow with GitHub repo to perform some tasks, right? So it's not hard to imagine that this, in the future, this becomes an IDE where I have a bunch of agents I can kind of orchestrate together using a tool like this. All right, so let's jump over back to the console and take a look at another example. So I'm back in a shell editor here, and I have example where I have a classic ASP.NET application that I'm working with. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have a lot of experience with .NET. And so if I was tasked to work on something like this, the first thing I might want to do, come in here, and I'm going to engage Gemini, right? I'm going to ask, help me kind of create an architectural diagram and documentations for this code. And we'll see what this comes back with. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So you can see Gemini say, okay, I understand you want to create some design documentation for this. So it gives me a breakdown, overview of components, functionality, technology, data store. And you can see it's a pretty good start, right? It's obviously not everything, but it's a pretty good start for me to start taking this and filling this out. It even highlights, potential improvements and security considerations, which is really helpful. Now, again, I might want to do a transformation and say, hey, translate this into React.js application, right? I want to see if I can modernize this. And this is using that local code awareness that I talked about, right? Where it's able to send the entire code base, and then we'll go and rewrite it in a different language. And let's see what this comes back with. So pretty quickly, you can see that it walks through the conceptual translation first, defining all the different things I should be kind of thinking about, and then gives me the actual code as well. Now, this code out of the box, this gets you, again, this is not going to be always working out of the box. You have to put it together yourself, make sure you understand every piece of this, but this speeds things up tremendously, right? And gets me going on the right path very quickly. I can ask more specific questions, right? I noticed in the security considerations, it was talking about the login validation being in the front end. So I asked it, hey, what should I do to move my login validation to the back end? We have that C# API that's available in this code repository. So again, because it understands the repository and what it's working with, it should be able to provide that code for me. Now, if I had the remote reg configured here as well, interesting. Looks like it's quit on me. If I had the remote reg configured here as well, it would be the results would be even better, right? Because it would actually consider my entire code repositories of my company with all the policies. If it found different APIs that are maybe not in this repository, it would find them as well. But you can see it came back and it gave me the exact kind of steps to move the code, the validation into the backend. The unit test creation is another great one, right? So if I want to, I notice there are no test cases here. So I say, hey, create me a unit test for this code. So again, this is another great way you can do that. You saw that in the presentation earlier. And similar to Jules, it should give me a way to it should give me the test plan. There you go, as well as generating test cases, the code for that as well. One last thing here, it says, hey, tell me, what are the security concerns for this code? We saw some of that in a design documentation already highlights some of that, so I want to get some more details. Here you go. And so you can see it breaks it down with plain text passwords and config. We found those and recommendations how to fix it. Lack of HTTPS, client-side validation. We already kind of talked about this one. So again, it saves a lot of time potentially. All of these activities, of course, can be done by developers, but leveraging the AI, you can go that much faster, right? So coming back to the presentation here. I know we're getting close to time here. Want to kind of bring us back full circle, right? And revisit that day in the life of a developer. You can see how integrating AI assistant into the software lifecycle, we have tons of opportunities to optimize the work and save a lot of time, which in turn allows us to get our ideas and products to market faster. So ultimately making sure that we get that timing right. If this looks interesting and you want to kind of play around with Code Assist, you can go to codeassist.google. It's free for personal use. You can install it from the marketplace as well, directly in VS Code, or going through this link. All right, been going for a while. I'm going to pause here and maybe try to see if we can go through the questions. Okay, so the first question was, is the recording going to be available later? Bill?
Yes, it is recorded and it can be available probably a few hours after the session is done.
Perfect. We'll check that one off. Next one, is there a CLI for Code Assist? There's not a CLI per se, so you would have to use the IDE obviously, but Ravi, if you want to come off mute and tell us exactly kind of the use case you're thinking about, what would you want a CLI to do? What would you need it for? Okay, Ravi.
By the way, I think I enable turn on the microphone. So if you want to speak to ask questions, go ahead too.
Yeah, sorry. I had a phone call to come in, so sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. No. One of the things. No, I asked for a command line because sometimes, because there are times when I want to use it in a notebook. When I'm using the chat instead of just because I don't know if it saves it or has a way to export what I put in the chat to do that. I mean, that's one reason why. But especially if I'm in an older code base I don't understand, I'd want to use it instead of from the IDE. I'd want to go more detailed within the code. Asking it to explain everything. So there are times when I would like to use the code, some of those things you mentioned, but not within the IDE, really strictly from the command line.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, naturally, as I mentioned, everything that you see that Google builds is API first. The question is that API publicly open and available? There are some things you can do via the API. There's not a CLI for it, but there are integrations in Notebook that are available. So if you're using Colab, for example, there's Gemini is already integrated to Colab. It's integrated to Notebooks LM. So there's lots of different services that it integrates directly into. But there's not a dedicated CLI to answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And really, another reason I asked is because Copilot, like your competitor GitHub Copilot, does have a CLI through the GitHub CLI.
Yeah. So as you saw, we have again, only via the IDE or chat. Like there are ways to slash and add commands to interact with like GitHub, GitLab in the tools features, but not necessarily directly with Code Assist itself.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, next question. This looks super helpful. How easy and effective is it for legacy code bases, though, which probably spans hundreds of classes and lots of files? Basically, how efficient in understanding the entire relationship and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the local code awareness, I think, is very helpful, right? So you have that 2 million token context window, which allows you to potentially send, as long as you're staying within that context window, it is very effective. If you're dealing with anything beyond that, this is when you need that remote rec capability, and which is unfortunately an enterprise feature, but that's the time that you want to have a greater context. That's when you would leverage that. But as long as you're under 2 million token context window, which is about 60,000 lines of code, you should be fine. Shreya, does that answer your question? Perfect. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What is the status of flash thinking, and how does it impact the conversation? I'm actually not sure what this one is. Mitch, do you want to give us a little more detail?
I know, really just thinking that the flash thinking is something, I guess, experimental or new. And it's really evaluating the thought process but behind some of the previous, like Code Assist. So yeah, as far as optimizing, tailoring it differently, you specialize in those types of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Got you. So you're talking about the Gemini 2
Yes.
flash thinking model?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's as far as I know, it's I think it's still being developed. I don't know if it's GA'd yet, but we have. I can send you some documentation, kind of on the latest updates, if you don't have that already. Yeah, I can see that it's still in our portfolio.
Great.
Right,
Thank you.
Google AI Studio. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Next question. I love the ASP.NET demo example. I was part of the startup team. We lost our primary dev who was writing everything ASP.NET. This might allow resurrection of project by converting some of the legacy code, and we're not be able to create. Yeah, absolutely. So not really a question, more of a comment. Couldn't agree more. This comes up all the time, right? Where we have customers with legacy code bases and developers no longer around. That use case really hits home, and is I totally agree, Larry. Very useful from that perspective. Larry, did you have a question about it, or just more of a comment? Just want to make sure. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So Larry says, guess the question is conversation of legacy code. Yeah. Yep. All right. Are there any other questions that I'm missing?
I have a question. I think I didn't reflect there. Now that I'm working on an agentic system, so I have a code on Python, and see, it's the latest advancement. So does this Gemini help Google Code Assist help me there?
Yeah, absolutely. Code Assist supports Python. This is one of the primary languages, and as well as Jules you saw. If you want to directly interact with the Flash 2.0 model behind the scenes, you can do that as well. Let me see if I can get. I think I had a slide on that one. Oops, that was hidden. So yeah, so there's Gemini 2.0 Flash SDKs available for most languages, including Python. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, there are no more questions. I know we're coming up on time here with a couple of minutes. I do want to mention that we do have a survey. So if you could take just a moment, fill it out, tell us how we did and how we do things better. And I'm going to hand it back to Bill.
Hey, great. Thanks. Thanks, Vadim, for the great presentations. And thank you for everyone for joining us today. Let us know if you have some last-minute questions. Feel free to type in the chat, or you can just go ahead to unmute yourself to speak to ask questions.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great. Yes. Please feel free to scan the QR code to fill out the survey to helping us to for planning for the future sessions. Let us know the any feedbacks.
Thank you. It's a good presentation.
Thanks. That was amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. We're going to end the meeting now. Please go to our website, aicam.ai, to check out two other sessions coming up, either online one or the in-person one in your city. Hope to see everyone in our next sessions.